think the Ravens are the biggest winners in the AFC North this offseason?
This is a team that consistently is going to be in position to contend because of how talented they are. The reality of it is those guys can play.
The AFC should watch out for the Baltimore Ravens this season.
Players in the NFL, certainly one of the best players at quarterback. They got a guy at tailback in J.K. Dobbins, who I think could be an all-pro. They got one of the best tight ends in football, a plethora of perimeter weapons, some health on the offensive line, a very good defensive line, one of the better young linebackers in the NFL, and a top 5 secondary. And no one talks about it.
Yo, what it is? Welcome back to another episode of At the Bank, a Baltimore Ravens podcast, man. Yo, I guarantee this episode is going to be very interesting. You feel me? Because this episode is going to probably have you thinking, like, is Mark Andrews arguably a top-tier tight end? Because that's what this episode is titled, top-tier tight end. And arguably, in my opinion, I think Mark Andrews will come strong at number 2. You feel me? And before I get to list of my reasons, man, let's talk about Mark Andrews as he was drafted to the Ravens. Mark Andrews was drafted in the 2018 draft. He was picked 86, round number 3, third round. You feel me? And he's a 6'5", 256 pounds out of Oklahoma. And honestly, in my opinion, this is the best third round pick that the Ravens ever did. Honestly, you know what I mean? I don't really know all the Ravens draft picks, you know, in the history, but as my time in watching the Ravens draft and in the history I've been watching, I can honestly say that Mark Andrews is the best third round pick that the Ravens can ever pick. You feel me? And it's going to be arguably as the years go down that these drafts come up, it's going to be tough to try to fill those shoes in that third round pick. You feel me? So let's talk about why I believe that Mark Andrews is a top tier tight end and has been arguably, and you know what the type of offense that the Ravens have been in, that run first offense, and he's still a number 2 tight end in the league. Like I said, we already know who's number 1. You know what I mean? And that's Travis Kelce, the multiple time winning Super Bowl champion. And, you know, the things that he do, what him and Mahomes do on that field, man, it's just like, man, I just wish that LJ and Mark Andrews can kind of replicate that. And in their way, they have. And that's why I say that, you know, Mahomes and Travis Kelce arguably the number 1 quarterback tight end duo, you know what I mean? Because they've been to the ship. But in my opinion, it might be a biased opinion, of course, but in all actually facts, Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews are the second, you know, coming in number 2, like a strong number 2. You know what I mean? It's just like a couple things, or maybe just one main thing, but you just had to get that main thing a couple of times, and that's getting to the Super Bowl. And if we can get to the Super Bowl, boy, it will be scary. But, you know, I mean, since Mark Andrews been in the league and, you know, the things that he has, in 2018, he had recorded 34 receptions, 552 yards, and 3 touchdowns. But his average was 16.2 yards a catch. And that's not bad. That wasn't a bad first year. You know what I mean? That shows that, like, man, if he just keep working and keep grinding, you know what I mean, things can look up for Mark Andrews. And that was also the same year that we had Hayden Hurst. And we all thought that Hayden Hurst was going to be this type of tight end. Now, no disrespect to Hayden Hurst, man. I still like that pick that we did to go get Hayden Hurst, because I think Hayden Hurst can be a game changer in the right offense. You kind of see what he did with Cincinnati. If Cincinnati had the money and to retain him, you know, Cincinnati offense can be a nice threat as they was last year. But, you know what I mean, it could have been nice if he would have came back down, especially with the offensive coordinator that Todd Monken is looking, the offense that he's looking to run. You know what I mean? I can't wait to see what this offense look like. But with Hayden Hurst, it would have been dope to fit him in with the tight ends room that we have now and the wide receiver room that is potentially, hopefully, can grow. You know, it's a wide receiver out there. It would have been, a good fit. But enough about Hayden Hurst. We talking about Mark Andrews, a top tier tight end. So in 2019, in Lamar's MVP year, Mark Andrews really stepped up and really showed that he can really be a top tight end in this league. He had 64 catches, 852 yards, and 10 touchdowns. Like, he took a big leap in that touchdown. This is where Lamar was, he was going wild. That 2019 year was something special for us. Only thing that we was missing was that chip, man. That was the only thing that we was missing out of that year. But that really showed that Mark Andrews is a number one target tight end now. The things that he was able to do. And Mark Andrews is not only receiver type tight end, he can also run block. That's what's make him real special, that you don't have to keep switching him in and out the lineups, and you have him in the lineup at all times. That means now if you want to do play action rolls, that when he rolls out, Mark Andrews can release, and you can trust that Mark Andrews will have that catch, because we already know the things that Mark Andrews can do with those hands, man. With those mitts that he has, man, it's a blessing that he's a Raven, man. Like, it's a truly a blessing, because the tight end history that we have is I think he's pretty much surpassing some of these tight ends that we had, like a Dennis Pitta. I believe if Dennis Pitta wouldn't have had that hip injury, man, Dennis Pitta would have had a nice career. And I think that's where Joe Flacco, you see where Joe Flacco kind of started having a decline in this passing rating and in this passing game period. As once Dennis Pitta, that was our safety blanket. And dig back even more, we had Todd Heap and Shannon Sharp. Shannon Sharp first, and Shannon Sharp was there once we got our first chip. And so, and Shannon Sharp only played one season. I wish he would have played multiple seasons, and I wish that the Ravens had the cap space after winning that Super Bowl year. Honestly, I think we would be able to run that back and really went back-to-back seasons. But, sometimes you got to put your chips in that 1 year, and that following year, that's when Jamal Lewis went down in that ACL injury. So it was like, oh, man, scary times. Also, we had, like I said, but once Shannon Sharp left, Todd Heap was there. And we all remember the Heap leak, man. Todd Heap was a threat, but, towards the end of his career, he was taking a lot of big hits and started getting injured a lot. Started getting injured a lot. So, it's like we had good tight ends there. And after that, it was missing. It was like, woof, where's this tight end field going to come from? We had multiple tight ends at that time, like a Daniel Wilcox tried to come in, and he played his role as best as he could, but it wasn't no top tight end. You feel me? So Mark, when finally 2018 finally came and Mark Andrews was here and available, as we seen that 2018 year showed that its potential. 2019 that Lamar's MVP year, something special. In 2020, even with Greg Roman with a run first type offense, Mark Andrews was still productive in the offense. In that 2020 year, it was a little drop down in the receptions. And he had 58. He had 701 yards. He had 7 touchdowns, but he was still averaging 12.1 yards and receptions. You feel me? So a little down year, but at times, coming in with a new offensive coordinator, it's trying to figure things out and who players really are. Because that following year, that 2021, Mark Andrews had a ball out year. And Lamar really didn't have that great of a year, really, because at the end of that season, he got injured. But Mark Andrews and he kept us alive. He had 107 receptions, 1,361 yards, and 9 touchdowns. And he was averaging 12.7. That shows that's a top tier tight end. Even when your franchise quarterback goes down, he's still able out here to produce. He's still out here putting in that work. And the greatest thing about, the greatest thing about Mark Andrews is his durability. He's always available. You know what I mean? It's not many times that you see Mark Andrews on an injury report. Now, we all understand that, football is a physical contact sport. You feel me? But at the same time, Mark Andrews is still available. You know what I mean? And that's what the league needs. And that honestly, that's what the Ravens need. Now, knock on wood, we most definitely need him this year. Mark Andrews is a key pivotal point in this offense this year. Before I get there though, let's talk about last year. Last year he had a little bit of a decline. The offense was still in the run first offense, and in the passing we was dead last, number 32, not looking good. You know what I mean? But still, Mark Andrews was still in the conversation of being arguably a top tier tight end. You know what I mean? And even with a decline after that 107 receptions yards the year before, and last year he had 73 receptions, 847 yards, and 5 touchdowns. You know what I mean? Averaging 11.6 yards. So he stayed relevant. You know what I mean? He still stayed a big target. But he always finds the way to get open. You know what I mean? And that's what makes Mark Andrews a valid point. That once he makes his move and gets with the spot that he wants to be at, he's going to get there. You know what I mean? And like I said, he's pretty quick to be that big guy. To be 6'5", 256 pounds maybe. You know what I mean? Could be a little bit more, could be a little less, but 6'5", that that's a locomotive coming down full speed, man. And then able to run routes, because it's almost some routes that Mark Andrews can complete. Now, I'm not saying he's the best route runner tight end. You know what I mean? I think that's where most definitely he has to put his work in a little bit more in. You know what I mean? I think that's his only, kind of a downfall. His weak point is route running. I think that's where the one thing that Travis Kelce also has over Mark Andrews is route running. You know what I mean? If he can increase that route running and improve in it, it's going to be even more scary, because he's already scary as is. You feel me? And oh man, it's just great to see how the growth of Mark Andrews, and he's actually at OTAs with Lamar right now. You know what I mean? As they battle and work through the summer together, get this timing together, learn this new offense together. You know what I mean? And that's what makes a great tight end, is that he's able to put in the work. He's never stopped putting in the work. You know what I mean? I watched the clip of him today, and he said that that's the one thing he's driving to be the greatest tight end there is. You know what I mean? And bring a championship back to Baltimore. We deserve it. We won it. You know what I mean? Not only we deserve it, that the Ravens deserve it. You know what I mean? But, we just got to make some noise during this regular season. And honestly, I think that Mark Andrews will make a lot of noise this year with that wide receiver room, which I'm going to be talking about in the upcoming episodes. That wide receiver room, man, is real deadly. You know what I mean? You don't know, you really can't send a double team. You can, but once you send that double team, I believe that the wide receiver room, somebody can get open this year. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be a lot of eyes on OBJ. We already know that. Everybody's eyes is on him. They want to make sure, how does he look? Is he back? Kind of back. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure that he's not going to be the OBJ of in the past. You know what I mean? But they are looking to see if he still potentially can be a threat, which we all believe that he can. Honestly, or hopefully he better be. You know what I mean? But you know what I mean, to be a big decoy, you know what I mean, that's not a bad role, because if you've been a decoy in the beginning, you know what I mean, and Mark Andrews is eating off your being the decoy, you know what I mean? Now they bring that double team to Mark Andrews, and now OBJ can go eat. And then if you try to do that, and then you got Zay Flowers now, who's most definitely showing in this OTA that burst of speed is something to watch out for. I think we most definitely have to pay attention of it. So if it's just like, then you got Devin Duvernay. Then we all keep on forgetting about Rashad Bateman. He's another guy that, knock on wood, hopefully he can stay healthy. You know what I mean? But like I said, this shows that it's quality of good guys out there. Now it's just, can Mark Andrews feed off of that? And honestly, I think he will feed off of that, because everybody keep focusing on just one thing. Everybody keep focusing on the pass thing. I understand that this is the most part of the offense that we gotta work on and show potentially that is bigger than what it used to be. And we already know what that used to be still can be. That run game. That run game can still be scary times. You feel me? It still can. You still got J.K. Dobbins, who's the dual threat running back. You still got Gus the Bus, who's going to pound and just keep on grounding for extra yards. And then that offensive line. Man, if that offensive line can most definitely stay healthy and keep everything upright and move that defensive line and move those linebackers back, whew, you just keep pounding away and having these safeties drop down, man. It's just over the top now. And I think that's where Mark Andrews also had the speed to get past the linebackers and get to the safeties. You know what I mean? And then I don't think that these safeties are big enough to even guard Mark Andrews. Like I said, 6'5", 256, man. And majority of these safeties are about 5'10", 5'9". You know what I mean? 2 something. Potentially maybe in the high 220s, but not really. It's about 210, 215 type range. You know what I mean? So you already losing that weight and height battle. You know what I mean? And you most definitely don't want to take it up top with Mark Andrews. You know, so, you know, like I said, this offense is potentially can be so scary if everything goes right. If everybody buys in. That's the most important key part of this whole offense trial now is everybody has to buy in. And everybody has to buy into their role also. You know what I mean? We don't want to hear later on in the season like, I'm not eating enough, or it's not coming my way, or Lamar only looking towards one way, or you know what I mean? Or hopefully, I just want the one thing I hope Todd Monken don't forget about is that run game. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's cool to have, you know, these good weapons, but don't forget who we are. That's that ground and pound and have these linebackers start cringing up in the fourth quarter. That's when the offense can really open up then. You know what I mean? And I'm hoping and banking, and that's also another episode also about this running back room. It's they most definitely got to build their identity in this offense so they won't be forgotten. So if that wide receiver room and that running back room can most definitely open up, that means how can you stop Mark Andrews? Like this, how? You know what I mean? And so I'm expecting big things out of Mark Andrews this year. I don't really expect him to get 100 receptions, just only because of what this wide receiver room is bringing to the table. You know what I mean? But I still think that Mark Andrews will bring in 75 receptions. I can see that. You know what I mean? But the thing about that 75 receptions, you gotta also remember in Lamar MVP year, he had 64 receptions, 852 yards, 10 touchdowns. Now, I just think that this 75, and last year he had 73 yards, 847. So I just think that this 75 touches can also get him 1,000 yards still. Because like I said, it's going to be, I think he's going to have a big average. He's going to have most definitely a big average after yards after catch. That yards after that yak is going to be, it's going to be eaten up because like I said, it's going to be so much focus on that wide receiver and that run game. So I see Mark Andrews getting 1,000 yards receiving. I still see him being our guy in the receiving. You know what I mean? I see our wide receivers still bringing a lot to the table, but Mark Andrews is that guy. You know what I mean? Just like Travis Kelce in Kansas City. You know what I mean? No matter what wide receivers they have, we know that Travis Kelce is still going to eat and still going to get his receptions no matter what. And then that's exactly how I feel about Mark Andrews. You know what I mean? I see Mark Andrews also bringing in I'm gonna give him 8 touchdowns this year. Because like I said, it's going to be touchdowns going to be thrown everywhere, hopefully. You know what I mean? But the way LJ is talking about, he wants to throw for 6,000 yards. It's a possibility that them yards can go up. You feel me? But on the for real, you know what I mean? I just think that wide receiver is also going to bring something to the table as far as yards. But I see Mark Andrews still getting 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns because, like I said, he's going to be a big part of the offense. You know what I mean? And he's when you're so focused on one thing, you're going to forget about another. You feel me? So that's how I honestly feel. And you know what I mean? You can most definitely correct me if I'm wrong. You know what I mean? If y'all feel any difference, you feel that Mark Andrews is going to increase or decrease, make sure you comment below, man. You feel me? Make sure you put your opinion up. You know what I mean? Like I said, it just based off my opinion, man. I just think that Mark Andrews still going to have a big solid year. And you know, being that number 2 tight end right now, you know what I mean? If Mark Andrews have a big year and can win, you know what I mean, a chip, he can be in that conversation of being a number 1 tight end in this league. You know what I mean? But for right now, you know what I mean, we can take number 2. We can take number 2. There's nothing wrong being number 2, man. He's showing that he's a top tier tight end in this league. And that's why I named this this episode this. Because he proved it year after year. It doesn't matter what type of style of offense, he shows that he can adjust. And I think he will adjust this year. So, you know what I mean? Like I said, man, y'all go ahead and give me your opinion, man. And this episode, you know what I mean, it's going to be a little short one. But, you know what I mean, I do appreciate y'all tuning in. Make sure y'all go ahead and tune into my other podcast, MTMO, My Thoughts, My Opinion. My 107th thought is out and available right now on YouTube and also on the GRYD, man. And like I said, make sure you follow the GRYD, period. You know what I mean? The GRYD also have other good shows on there. So make sure y'all go in, subscribe, tune in, tap in. We got something coming up good for y'all. Trying to tell y'all that we are on the rise and we going to take on any challenges that we possibly can. You feel me? So go ahead and check us out. Go ahead and check all the shows out. Go ahead and check the network out. Go come on and check on the spread shop. Make sure you get your gear, man. Make sure you're able to support. You know what I mean? Like I said, we got hats, t-shirts, hoodies, sweatshirts, phone cases. Even for your dogs, man, we got dog bandanas. You feel me? Make sure you go ahead and get your merchandise. You feel me? And like I said, I appreciate y'all. And as always, man, y'all already know what the deal is, man. Big trust. As always, man. Appreciate y'all. I'm out.